everything Huskers.
Raiola takes a snap, fade route, back run of the end zone, 50-50 ball! Touchdown, Huskers!
Nebraska wins its 5th national championship.
Giving you an inside look at everything going on in Husker Nation. This is the KLIN Husker Hour.
Kicks and deals the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Jackson Brockett has the first 9-inning no-hitter for the Nebraska Cornhuskers since 1954, and he did it on his 12th strikeout.
Sunset, go ahead, Thunderdog, and then one! Exclamation point! Pump the brakes!
Now your hosts, KLIN contributor Cole Stukenholtz and sports director Nate Rohr.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another edition of the KLIN Husker Hour. We are into December, final month of 2025, and we've got a treat today. It is Nate Rohr in studio.
Live and in person.
Oh, my goodness. It's a Christmas miracle. We've got Kenny Larrabee up in here as well. He's got us up on the StreamYard. You can check us out on all the KLIN socials, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Husker Hour Facebook page as well. You can check in with us. You can chat with us in the StreamYard chat. You can see what we're doing up here in the studio, and we've got a lot to get to. We have Kent Pavelka joining us in our next segment. It's a big weekend for Husker men's basketball. Both the men and women knocking on the door of the top 25, depending on potentially this weekend's results. We got some football comings and goings, a certain individual with some postseason awards, and a decision he's made as well, plus some coaching thoughts from Nate and I. But first, sometimes you have two people and you know who they are, and they just take it to another level. And I, of course, am talking about my boys, 12 and 9. We went to my daughter's choir concert yesterday. And, you know, boys are going to be boys. They're going to antagonize each other. They're going to, you know, try to get the other to hit them harder so they can go to mom or dad and say, hey, he hit me really hard. What did you do to start it? I have one boy going back and forth to the complimentary treats table and just stuffing his face with Oreos, 3 separate trips. I have the other one getting antagonized to the point where he's elbowing his brother in the nuts. Oh yeah. We're taking it to the next level, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just sometimes
the battle is on.
Sometimes you have two people, you know what they do, you know what they're good at, and they do it even better than you thought they were capable of doing it before. So, of course, that also applies to a couple of middle blockers on Nebraska Volleyball, as Andy Jackson and Rebecca Alec took it to the next level last night as Nebraska swept their way through the first round of the NCAA Tournament. On to the next. It was 15-17 sweep of Long Island. Andy Jackson, 833. Rebecca Alec, 750. Both of those would have been a 3-set NCAA tournament record for Nebraska. Now both of them, and they did it in the same match. Incredible performance from the middles, incredible performance across the board. Everybody got to play exactly what you would have drawn up for that first round, and now you play K-State in the second round with just 5 matches to go to get that natty.
Yep, you can feel it. They were sharp. I say they were sharp. They came out maybe a little slow, 9-7. You wonder if Long Island gave them their best punch, and then Nebraska wins 16 out of the next 20 rallies. And, you know, and we see that, right? That teams can return fire for a portion of set 1 or sometimes the entire first set. And it ends up, 25-22, somewhere in that neighborhood. But, Long Island just doesn't have the material that Nebraska does. And so the Huskers were able to pretty effectively shut down Long Island. But, you look at those hitting percentages. I mean, Nebraska hit over 600 in the first set. They hit closer to 500 than 400 for the match, I think. I mean, they played at a highly efficient level. And that's what you want to see. you expect Nebraska to win. Ended up being 476 for the hitting percentage, a school record for a 3-set match. So they did what you wanted to see them do. And to get them into the NCAA tournament, to get them a match where they play pretty sharp and they were able to do what they wanted to do, that makes you feel good. And it's no surprise that last night went the way that it did. I'll be interested to see what K-State does against them. I mean, K-State had to burn a lot of fuel to get through San Diego. And so you wonder if they can take a set. The teams rarely want to talk about moral victories, but if K-State takes a set, I think they go down Highway 77 with smiles on their faces.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the way that the match, like you said, the way it started off was not exactly what you would want, but then they turned it on in that middle part of that first set, and it was over from there. You're reminded at times when you're watching this match or listening to it on B107.3 with John Baylor and Lauren Cook, and John Cook with an appearance before the match as well. Ooh. Over there. You're reminded about just all of the things that are in Nebraska's corner, from experienced players, decorated players. Yeah. You've got Big Ten Player of the Year, Bergen Riley now. You've got 4 first-team All-Big Ten performers, the Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. And then you look at Danny Busboom Kelly's resume. At times they throw that up on the screen, and she's made 2 NCAA finals before even landing here at Nebraska. Built Louisville up, and potentially could see her old team next weekend. We'll talk a little about that as well. But the way that everything is kind of going in Nebraska's favor, it's nobody is worried that, oh, well, they're going to lose because they're undefeated. But it's been a while since Nebraska was tested late into a match. And with the men's basketball team playing Creighton, you're reminded that this last time Nebraska went 5 was Creighton.
Yeah.
And so 1 set lost in all of Big Ten play. They've only lost 7 sets the entire season. You just wonder if you have a team that gets hot enough to, get down to 22, 23, 24 points. If they do drop a set at this point, I don't expect them to blink, but now it's win or go home, right? And the pressure and the stakes are all ratcheted up a level. So that's really the only thing that I would wonder about, seeing if K-State can pull that off and get a set. Like you said, it might be all it takes to, keep smiles on their faces as they head back down to Manhattan. But that's the one worry that you have at this point is, can Nebraska, now that it's real, now that it's tournament time, can they still maintain that same level of invincibility? Because once you're cut, sometimes that other team takes that and runs with it.
Right. And that will be the mental challenge for them. But, we also saw it against UCLA. I mean, UCLA took a set from them and challenged them in another set, and they were able to shake it off and get the job done in that match. And this is such a veteran team at this point. I mean, like you said, this junior class has gone to an NCAA final. They've gone to 2 Final Fours. They've won 3 Big Ten championships. They've got a lot of tools in their mental toolkit to deal with adversity to the extent that they're going to deal with it. And so I'm not worried about that. I feel like they are in a great position to deal with a bump in the road should it come up, to deal with dropping a set, to shake it off, to get themselves back on the right track. So I've got a lot of faith in them at this point, and obviously they've built up a lot of capital. And the other part of it is, if a player has turned into an Achilles heel for whatever reason, and these things happen, right? Somebody for whatever reason, the rotations set up a certain way and somebody's not passing all that well and they just keep getting served, you can get somebody else out there. And so there are different options for Nebraska to stop the music, to break somebody's rhythm if they get rolling against them. There are just so many ways that the Huskers can beat a team, can find a way to win. I've got a good amount of faith that they're going to be able to deal with even dropping a set. I mean, it's tough to foresee a scenario where they go down 2-0, but even if that's the case, I think they would be able to deal with that and build their way out of it. And, the best way to deal with that's to never get into the situation in the first place. And I think that's more likely than them getting down 2-0 to somebody or having an Achilles heel rotation or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the bracket and see how this thing would kind of line up. As Nebraska faces K-State today, they would be against Kansas in the round of 16. That would also be in Lincoln. That's a next weekend match. Kansas took down Miami 3-1 down in Lawrence. So beyond that, it's 2-seed Louisville or 3-seed A&M, likely. A&M plays TCU tonight, and then Louisville has Marquette. That would be an Elite Eight matchup. That would be also here in Link. Obviously, there's storylines with Louisville, Texas A&M. Wonder if Trev would make the return trip. Would he show his face in the Devaney? Do you think? I don't know. I mean, if they're making the, I don't know that he'd be there for the first match, but for an Elite Eight match, for the trip to the Final Four on the line.
I think you'd have to put aside whatever your own baggage is and come up and be here for that.
Yeah. Well, we shall see the matchup in terms of what a potential Final Four matchup would look like. Pitt is opposite Nebraska on this side of the bracket. They're the 1 seed. They take on Michigan today. Big Ten teams still unbeaten in this tournament. Michigan's probably the likeliest to fall before this next round, but you've already got 3 Big Ten teams into the round of 16 with Indiana, Wisconsin, and Purdue. A number of others can get there today. The 2 seed across from Pitt is SMU. Nebraska remembers them from last season, that surprise upset. And then Purdue, the 3, and then Minnesota, the 4, another Big Ten team. So that's what they would be facing. And then obviously the other side, who knows who could come out of there. Creighton did make it after a scare in the first round in Northern Colorado. The other 1 seeds, Kentucky and Texas. History there too. Nebraska beat Kentucky this season. And of course met Texas in the final a couple of years ago. So that's why the bracket looks, which obviously the Louisville matchup would be the tastiest for the Danny Busman Kelly factor. But if you could pick any other team that's to see Final Four, final, who do you want?
I want Texas.
Yeah.
I want Texas. I think this athletic department badly needs to exercise some demons against the Longhorns. And what better way than in a virtual home game, which is what it's going to be in Kansas City with all the marbles on the line. So give me Texas in the final. I think Nebraska, it will be ready for them. I think it's been a bit of an up and down year for Texas, relatively speaking. Give me the Longhorns. You worry because the one you mentioned it, Kentucky pushed Nebraska.
Yeah.
That thing went 5 and nobody batted an eye about it, nor should they have. I mean, Kentucky's a really good team. And I just worry that if Kentucky gets another shot at them, they might be the one team that can legitimately return fire and say, look, we were close.
Yeah.
We were in the same neighborhood. We just couldn't finish it off. This is the time we finish it off. Whereas, Texas hasn't seen Nebraska. They haven't had a shot at them. And look, it's just fun to beat those people. I mean, I want to beat Texas. Horns down forever. Saw Bevo's horns off.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah. And Texas honestly would be the one that I would want to, but for other reasons, they're one of the top teams Nebraska hasn't already played this season.
That's
you
true.
Look across the 1s and 2s, Pitt and Kentucky, 2 other 1 seeds. They're on Nebraska's ledger.
Yep.
And then the other 2 seed over there in Texas region, Stanford, that's a Nebraska defeat. And then you have Creighton as the 3 seed. Obviously Nebraska beat them, and then a lot of Big Ten teams littered throughout. Wisconsin a 3, Purdue a 4, or Purdue is a 3. So yeah, Texas is who I want, and Pitt in Nebraska's side of the bracket in a Final Four matchup. Remember, they've made 4 straight Final Fours,
sure,
and have not made it past that round. They've still had not made a championship match. Nebraska having done the job to defeat them 2 of the last 4 years. So Dan Fisher's very familiar with Nebraska and very familiar with Danny Busboom Kelly, having been ACC rivals from her days over at Louisville. So there's a lot of tasty matchups potentially on the horizon. And we will, by the time it gets around to our next show, Nate, we'll probably be looking at the Elite Eight matchup, which could very well be that rematch with Louisville. Not rematch, but
reunion.
The roots.
Yeah.
Come back, and that could be what we're talking about next Saturday. But before we get ahead of ourselves, it is Nebraska and K-State. That matchup is going to be 6 o'clock first serve or 6 o'clock pregame with 7 o'clock first serve. That's here on KLIN and over on B107.3. So tune in to JB and Lauren for that one as Nebraska takes on the Wildcats, our old friends from the Big 12. All right, when we come back, we're chatting with an old friend. It's Kent Pavelka, the legendary voice of men's basketball. He is on Husker Hour with us next. It is Creighton weekend. Nobody be wearing blue today or tomorrow, all right? We got KP right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
This holiday.
With current and former Huskers and those that cover the Big Red. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Year where football season ends and it didn't go well, so everybody wants to start talking about basketball. It's been like that in Lincoln for many decades, and no difference this season as Nebraska men's basketball still the longest win streak in the nation, and no better person to talk about that team than Kent Pavelka, the voice of Husker Hoops. Kent, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Glad to have you back on Husker Hour. How are you?
I always enjoy it, guys. Welcome to the discussion. You guys are a little late to the party, though. I mean, the season started in October. But, yeah, I get it with the football thing. Anyway, yeah, big game coming up Sunday. Huge game.
Yes, and definitely want to chat about the Blue Jays and also the first couple Big Ten games. But let's first look a little bit back. Nebraska's gotten some pretty decent wins at neutral sites already this season. What have you seen from this squad so far that gives you the sense that, you know, it could be finally the year?
Well, I think, you know, when things are going well on the offensive end, it's a thing of beauty. I mean, they move the ball like they're expected to, like they're coached to, and they get good shots and they make shots. When their shots aren't falling, sometimes they will lack that little crispness factor that that I think gives them the edge. They need to have an edge on the offensive side, and when they've got it, they're really fun to watch. Defensively, I think Nate Lenzer's done a great job again. Again, they've got to play with an edge, but I've been impressed. You know, I think that I was hoping there'd be more depth on this team than there is at this very moment, because they're kind of shorthanded. And what I thought was a real deep roster is not right now. But they've had some really good wins, as you said. You know, the 2 wins in Sioux Falls and then the 2 wins in Kansas City. And arguably, this will be the best home game so far this year. And I don't know, Creighton's pretty good. They're 5-3. The teams they've lost to are really good teams. You got to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect a Donnybrook on Sunday afternoon. I think it's going to be a really good game.
You talk about what this team has been offensively, and I'm sure one of the main factors in how they've been able to produce despite losing Bryce Williams is getting Rink Mast back in the post. How much has he meant to this team and to this offense in the first 6 weeks or so of the season?
Well, Nate, would everything be a little bit over dramatic?
Yeah.
I think you know, he's a unique player. He's a talented player, and you know, like I said, they're fun to watch, and partly because you know they run so much through him on either lane line or on the elbows, and he's such a good passer, and he's so smart, and they're special because of him, and several other pieces to go with him that I think are special. But yeah, Rink is a special player. I've used that word half a dozen times already in answering your question, but I think that's the word.
Sure. And you know, he has the season out last year due to injury. I mean, did he pick up right where he left off, or has his game even developed since you last saw him a couple of years ago?
Oh, I think he's as good. I think he picked up where he left off. He worked his tail off to get back to where he is at this point in time, and it wasn't easy because it was a pretty invasive knee repair. But he's I don't think he's lost anything. You know, he's shooting 43% from 3. I mean, what else do you want from him? He you know, he'll have a game here and there that isn't as productive as others, but he's been pretty good, averaging 18 points and 6 rebounds. So, you know, he's going to be a pro. You know, the NBA, I don't know, but he's going to make a lot of money on the next level after this.
Sure.
Kent Pavelka joining us here on the KLIN Husker Hour talking Nebraska ball. KP, with Rink Mast being kind of the star of this team, there's certainly a lot of supporting cast that has played their part at times. And one of the biggest acquisitions in the portal this offseason was Price Sandfort. There have been some times where his 3-point shooting has kind of been the spark, and it's been the main ingredient to a victory. His role on the offense, I think, is there, and I think he can, you know, kind of play, I don't know, at times Robin to Rink's Batman. How important has he been to this version of Fred Hoiberg's bunch?
Well, I think it's appropriate that you mention him after Rink, the next player up on offense. I mean, I think those are the two guys, and then you know, Jamarcus is a really good player, and Berkey's got, you know, his own skill set. Braden Traeger off the bench, but Price Sandfort, I think, has just beginning to reach the level where he can end up. I don't want to start coaching here, but I'd like to see him be a little bit more authoritative with the ball. You know, I mean, he takes a lot of shots, and appropriately so, but I think he's the best wing player by far that is on this team. And I really think that Creighton's going to try to shut down both Mast and Price on Sunday. And the degree to which they're successful, if they are, I think that's going to put the pressure on a guy like Brayton Frager. Not pressure, but I think that Frager's going to need to score on Sunday. But I love Price Sanford. I mean, he's got one of the quickest releases I've ever seen in college basketball. And, you know, I don't know if he's been reticent because this is his first year here, but he can step up, in my opinion, and take on a little more significant role.
You mentioned Braden Frager in his redshirt freshman year out of Southwest. He was a guy that you heard a little buzz about, even as last year was stretching on, that maybe even Fred Hoiberg was thinking about taking off his redshirt. Are you surprised at how big an impact Frager has made right off the bat, or were you hearing kind of the same things and even more of it to where, hey, Frager's going to plug right in?
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. If you followed any of what I'm doing on social media, several times in the summer when I watched him practice, I walked away and said he's the best player on the floor. I mean, I'm talking about last June and July.
Yeah.
And that might be, you know, hyperbole a little bit when you talk about Rink and Price, but he's a talented young man, and young is the word you underscore there. I think that with seasoning and with what seasoning gives you over time, you can only get better. And I don't know if there's any shortcut to getting to that point, but, you know, you tell me what he can do better right now. I mean, tell me what more you could expect from him as a freshman right now. Sure. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the things that you get from Frager, not only is it the skills that he's bringing, but he was right here, right? And in the state, it's been, with Creighton coming up, no more appropriate time to discuss how Nebraska has you know, not held up their end in terms of keeping the gates up around the state and keeping that talent in the program, or bringing that talent in the program from the state. And with Frager, and you can even go to you know, Sam and Cale Jacobson, there are times where all three of them were on the floor late in those games against Oklahoma and K-State when they're coming down to the wire against really good teams.
Absolutely.
And Creighton has been really good at this. The tables, I don't know if they've turned, but Nebraska has, I think, better Nebraska talent on its roster going into this matchup. You have not been able to say that very often when you talk about the red versus the blue.
Yeah, I mean, you'd look at Green and Trout, I guess, on the Creighton roster.
Yeah.
Really good players. I don't think there's any huge difference in terms of the imprint that local players or Nebraska kids are making on these two rosters this year. And you gotta love Sam and Cale. I mean, both former walk-ons. Part of the 7-player rotation. There's really about 7 guys now that can help you. They have really become outstanding power conference basketball players, and I don't think anybody around would have predicted that they'd be as effective and as important as they are to this team.
Huskers 8-0 on the year, and yet you feel like they might be coming off their worst performance against South Carolina upstate. I know Fred was pretty displeased with what he saw against the Spartans. What happened there, and how can Nebraska work through it?
Well, the last 2 games, both of them last week, were not reminiscent of what we saw in Sioux Falls or in Kansas City, but understandably so to some extent. I mean, you're talking about bye games, mid-majors, talking about a crowd that wasn't really much into it, and one day affected greatly by the weather. And I just think that as much as you want to pretend that you're going to be able to be at that emotional peak and readiness for every game, you're just not going to be. Coach Osborne used to say, you only have so many train wrecks in you for every year, and so I think that came into play. But they're going to have to play better Sunday than they did last week. I do hope that the crowd is. I think the crowd's going to be there. Obviously, it's going to be a hard to describe atmosphere, out of this world atmosphere. But 2 years ago, it was the same thing, and Creighton. They just took Nebraska out of the game from the beginning, and that crowd just sat there. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, our crowds are great, Husker basketball fans are great, particularly when things are going well. But when things aren't going well, that's when the team needs them, and that's what makes a special basketball venue, in my opinion, is when, you got 15,000 people in there. Creighton jumps up on you 6-8 points. That's when you need them. And that's what I hope happens on Sunday.
Yeah, that one's coming up. It's actually a really 3-game stretch if you look ahead. That's really important now for Nebraska. The toughest stretch of games before January. It's going to be Creighton and then Wisconsin, both at home, and then at Illinois next Saturday. With this Creighton matchup, Kent, what's going to be the key to stopping what Creighton wants to do offensively? You heard Nate say that Creighton may take away Mast and Sanford if they can. How do you think Nate Lenser and the defense attack the Blue Jays?
I think they'll guard them well. I mean, Creighton is Creighton. They probably aren't as good as they were last year. I don't think that's being pejorative. I think it's being objective. But they're always a team that, even if they aren't as talented on that old any given day thing, I mean, they always are able to shoot it. It seems like, if they have one of those days where everything's falling for them, it's going to be hard. Now, they haven't been shooting it great, 33% from three in 8 games. They shot it much better the other night against Nicholls State. So I think that you got to hope that your defense, your pressure defensively is going to pay dividends. But if they're making shots despite that, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. This Creighton team, I mean, they're 5-3, as you mentioned. They've lost to really good teams, but they're a step back from the last couple of years. But this is still the in-state rivalry. This is still, Creighton is still a program that's sort of a yardstick for Nebraska. What would it mean to Nebraska men's basketball to continue this great start and get a win over Creighton to stay undefeated?
Well, you know what, Nate? That's you put me in a terrible situation.
Hey, I'm sorry, Ken.
You want to? No, I'm just teasing you. You want to act like you've been there, right?
Sure, yeah.
You beat Creighton on Sunday, and to a degree, you want to go. So what? We beat Creighton, and now let's play the real game on next Wednesday against Wisconsin, right? But
right.
No, it is still, in my book. Now that I've been gone from football for 30 years, this is the best sporting event of the year, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And you certainly don't want to beat Creighton and then not win the next 2 games, or either of the next 2 games. I'm going to throw that at Jeff, Coach Smith, on the pregame. Would you trade a win over Wisconsin over Creighton this next week?
That's a tough question.
Would you trade a win over Creighton and be satisfied to lose both those games? I mean, it's a silly rhetorical question, but kind of gets to the heart of the issue, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rivalry game, and while maybe a conference game practically carries more juice and more importance, at the same time, we have to live with these people 12 months out of the year, and we have to live with this result. I mean, you and I are both in Omaha, so
yes, we live in Omaha, and I've been here for 50,000 years, and I can't go anywhere all year long without my Creighton fans, without some kind of conversation. So, yeah, this is a big game for me anyway.
Yeah, I hear that.
Well, here's hoping the atmosphere meets the moment. It's Nebraska Creighton.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it's a 4:00 tip-off. You'll hear pregame right here on KLIN at 3:00. And it's been since 2018 since Nebraska has beaten Creighton in Lincoln. I know they've gotten them a couple times up in Omaha, but it's been a while since it's been done at PBA. So let's get it.
I do.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
Yeah. Well, Kent, always a pleasure. We really appreciate having you on Husker Hour every year. Let's go call a win on Sunday.
All right, man. Thanks, guys. You guys are the best.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Kent. We appreciate it, man.
All right, there he goes, Kent Pavelka here on Husker Hour. We'll be back right after this. A little bit more Husker Hoops chat when we come back here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
Let us do the cooking.
Your Saturday morning source for everything Huskers is right here. You're listening to the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Big thanks to Kent Pavelka joining us here again on Husker Hour on Creighton game weekend, no less. If you missed that, make sure you are checking out the podcast page at KLIN.com. Subscribe to the feed on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. Tell your friends that Kent Pavelka is ready to call another win. And this would be the first in Lincoln since 2018 if Nebraska can get it done. And it's only been one time since Nebraska moved to the Big Ten that Nebraska has beaten Creighton in Lincoln, which sounds terrible, but it's absolutely true.
I don't like it. I want it changed. I want it changed now, please.
But back to this matchup, though, this is a setup where Nebraska does not have a knock your socks off non-conference schedule. They're not playing in a top 10 game like Purdue and Michigan State are today. They're taking on Creighton. They've done what they needed to do against K-State and Oklahoma and New Mexico, the best other three opponents that they've got in the non-con. This Creighton one, though, is the cherry on top. If they can get this, they're probably undefeated in the non-conference schedule.
Yep.
And then it's all about Big Ten play and where you slot in there as far as your postseason chances. Creighton is not going to have their guy in the middle in Ryan Kalkbrenner for the first time in a long time.
17 years.
Yes. Fact check. True.
Yes.
So it's all about, can you slow down their 3-point chances and run them off the line and maybe force them to go inside where you feel good about your depth compared to theirs, and making sure they don't get second chance points and offensive rebounds. To me, that's the key. Nebraska, I think, has more options and better options right now. And even with Connor Essegian out, Creighton's just not been shooting it well. They do have a nice win against Oregon, and their losses are against teams that are, I think, better than both Nebraska and Creighton. But that part of the game is where I think this matchup comes down to. Can Nebraska just not allow those second chance opportunities? I think Nebraska will have a chance to outshoot the Blue Jays.
Boy, when's the last time you could say that?
It's been a while.
I mean, the whole conception of Creighton basketball is run and gun, guys that can shoot from the outside, Ryan Sears, Corver, McDermott. I mean, it's rare that you feel like Nebraska has more offensive firepower, more weapons, like you said. And they're probably the favorite in this game. I don't see a point spread on it anywhere, but when's the last time Nebraska's been a favorite in this game? I mean, this is a little different setup, and it's a different breed of pressure on this Nebraska team in a lot of ways, because now expectations are starting to build, and this is a rivalry game. This one counts for 2 at least in the conference. I mean, we were talking about I think off air, and we might have mentioned this on air to Kent about, does this, if you win this one, does it make up for going 0-2 next week in 2 conference games?
Would you trade it?
Yeah. And honestly, I'm not so sure I wouldn't. I mean, it's Creighton. It's the people you have to deal with every single day. It's your biggest market, a market that, by the way, for all the in-state player success Nebraska is having this year, with Jacobson, with Sam Hoiberg, with Frager, Omaha is still Creighton's market first, last, and always.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that every year, or, at least every other year lately, they've gotten the message that Nebraska is the inferior basketball program. And especially with the football slide, and football shouldn't factor into men's basketball, but just the overall feeling about Husker sports is in a lot of ways dictated by football and men's basketball. Volleyball, of course, makes you feel good, but your 2 biggest programs are football and men's basketball. And so you need this one to say you're the best men's basketball program in the state. And again, to win as a favorite in this game, to verify that K-State win, to verify the Oklahoma win, to verify the New Mexico win, and get people believing heading into conference play.
Yeah, that's what's on the table for Nebraska Creighton, and it's some of the matchups within the game as well. You've got a lot of Nebraska area ties. Obviously, the Huskers have Kale and Sam, and now Braden Frager. You get Jason Green and Isaac Trout for Creighton, Nebraska kids, plus the Iowa connection with Price Sanford at Nebraska, and then 2 transfers from Iowa on Creighton as well with Dix and Freeman. So there's a lot of known commodities, and hopefully Nebraska gets that bad blood pumping up there in PBA. That one is tomorrow with a 4:00 tip-off. You'll hear pregame right here on KLIN starting at 3:00 with Kent Pavelka and Jeff Smith. All right, when we come back, we are going to dig into football. Yes, a lot going on over there as well. We might know the bowl matchup as soon as tomorrow. We should know the bowl matchup as soon as tomorrow. And then we know the fates of a defensive coordinator and a running back as well. We'll talk about it and break it all down when we come back here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
Money in your next paint.
Get everything Huskers. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, well, it's December, and so naturally we start talking football in segment 4 of the show. Just the way that things have broken down here is Nebraska knows that they will not have John Butler anymore going forward, as Matt Rule parted ways with Nebraska's defensive coordinator from this season. And Nate, it is the end of the line for a great player in Emmett Johnson, as he has declared officially for the NFL draft. And he is, I don't know if that announcement didn't explicitly include the bowl game, but
didn't say one way or another, but I'd be very surprised if he was playing.
You get the sense that he's not going to be playing in the bowl game, will not don the scarlet and cream again. But what a career for Johnson. He goes out with a bang as he ends up the first team All Big Ten running back and the running back of the year award within the conference, and over 800 yards of total offense in the month of November alone. Really makes you cringe when you hear that, and you know that Nebraska went 1-3 in those games. But hat tip to that guy. Only Power 4 recruit or only Power 4 offer came from Nebraska. Ron Brown credited for that recruitment in Emmett's statement. It's going to be tough not seeing number 21 out there again for Nebraska.
Yeah, and it leaves a lot of questions about where this offense is going to go, because as we've seen down the stretch, and you mentioned his production, I mean, he was Nebraska's offense in its totality, especially when Dylan Raiola went down. But even before, he was pretty much the Nebraska bell cow.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that in the bowl game? And then really, how do you deal with that next season? Because you just have giant questions about, first, who's going to be getting your wide receivers the ball? And secondly, who is going to be the running back that takes the heat off of Raiola or Latif, depending on who sticks around and who gets the job? You need a running back. It should be a transfer portal priority. I mean, obviously you start with the offense and defensive lines on your Christmas wish list for the portal, but boy, right beside that would be a running back, because I don't think Isaiah Mosey or Mekhi Nelson showed enough in the limited work they got to make you feel secure heading into next season that either one of them could do the job.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Nebraska's going to get a running back, maybe not even two in the portal this offseason. Yeah. And the other thing that leads you to believe that this could be a pretty heavy transfer offseason, not necessarily the way Matt Rule wants to build the program, but only 10 signees on signing day, which was this week. It's certainly not the panache that it used to have. It used to be the thing in February, but now it's just kind of, signing day. But Nebraska, only 10 signees, probably the smallest class that I can remember in the last 20, 25 years. And so you obviously have a lot of underclassmen, but you don't have a big class coming in. That does lead you to believe they've got some spots open for folks who want to come join the Big Red from other schools that have proven themselves and are ready to step into potentially a starting role at a few positions.
Yeah, this was a young roster this year anyway. They talked about how 92 of the guys coming into the season had 4 years of eligibility remaining. So it's not like you have a lot of spots. And with the high schooler, while you expect some of those guys to come through your program and develop, and certainly that was Matt Rule's calling card, at the same time, frankly, Matt Rule doesn't have that time to wait. I mean, next year's got a lot of onus on it to be a good year.
Yeah.
And so he needs impact players right away. He can't wait for a bunch of linemen to shed their baby fat and be locked in the weight room for 2 years and get up to 280 or 290 and still move. So they need impact guys right now. They need guys who are going to be known commodities right now. And for what it's worth, you look at how the transfer portal baked out for Nebraska this year, you almost have to throw out what happened after year one going into year two as far as transfers, because they were still settling in to college football, and it can be a tough evaluation.
Yeah.
But it felt like their hit rate in the transfer portal was pretty high. I mean, Isaiah Hunter was really good. Dane Key, I think, was quietly good.
Andrew Marshall
was great. Waneri was really good. Deshaun McCullough showed signs. I mean, there were a lot of hits in the portal.
And Pritchett on the line.
Oh, Rocco Spindler. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
And Pritchett came along, and he's a younger guy anyway. So you feel like if they can get in the portal, they're going to be able to get some impact pieces that help them. It's just they're going to have to find them, especially on the lines. They need impact guys right now. Offensive line, offensive tackle, and defensive line. And the defensive coordinator discussion shapes that a little bit, because what Nebraska may be looking for on that defensive line may be changing. I mean, right now you need a nose tackle, and you need that 330-pound space eater that takes up 2 blocks every single play. If you switch to a 4-man line as your base, that's a different defensive tackle you're looking for. That's a different defensive end you're looking for. That's a different line, outside linebacker you're looking for. So step one is to set your defensive scheme, and it sounds like Matt Rule has the Toledo defensive coordinator in for an interview this week, and we'll see if that sets that spot to where, then they can start to build and kind of what the picture of the defensive scheme is going to be, and then they can build from there. I sort of, in theory, I like a 3-3-5 just because you can randomize that fourth pass rusher. But the fact of the matter is that scheme hasn't held up against Minnesota, hasn't held up against Iowa, has trouble against Wisconsin. Those are the teams you need to beat to win in this league. Didn't hold up against Illinois last year. Yeah. So I think Nebraska, while John Butler might have been fired in part for saying the quiet part out loud. I don't think he was wrong in saying Nebraska needs to get bigger, which means 4-man line.
Yeah, that's a possibility. The things with the defensive coordinator, yeah, like you said, scheme wise, what's that going to look like? What will he rule? What will Rule prioritize? Is he going to prioritize the coach or the scheme? Not that you can't have both, but you might have to pick. And then the other pieces to that, what assistant decisions are left to that defensive coordinator? I think Rule made it clear Addison Williams is not going anywhere.
Addison Williams is a made man, and deservedly so.
Yeah, Rob Dvorak's been here all 3 years. Phil Simpson has been the coach of the outside linebackers for 1 year, but we know the recruiting ties in Miami are big there.
Yeah,
I wonder if maybe they go a different direction at defensive line. Terry Braden came in late because he was with the Chiefs through the Super Bowl run last season. I don't know what he brings in the recruiting side. That part of it isn't as clear to me. So that's the other thing you wonder. And then the third thing is this defensive coordinator going to have some dudes to bring with him.
Sure.
Because if you come from a lower level, some people kind of bristle at that, but hey, everybody wants to talk about Coach Cignetti. Hey, why can't Nebraska do what Indiana's doing? Guess what Cignetti did? He brought dudes from a lower level.
What, 24 players from James Madison? I mean, that's college football today.
Yes.
For better or worse, that's part of the deal is using the transfer portal to your advantage and even using your coaching hires to your advantage.
You may have some Nebraska players that have been in the weight room and getting better, and they make it onto the scene next year and take that and run with it. But they may have to find some players somewhere else. So that's the fascinating part of the DC discussion. Okay, we'll wrap things up, get you ready for the weekend. When we come back, volleyball in action in the second round today, men's and women's hoops as well. They are on the doorstep of the top 25 if they can get wins this weekend. We'll get you all set for that when we come back here on Husker Hour.
You're listening to the KLIN Husker Hour. Executive Travel Talk is next on 1499.3 KLIN. Complete review of the Huskers news this week. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Lest we forget, just like the women's basketball team is in action and also is very, very close to potentially making into that top 25. Have not dropped a game, the Williams squad, and they've got a tough one. They're on the road in the Big Ten. They're taking on Penn State. That one is coming up actually pretty soon here, 11:30 pregame with Matt Coatney and Jeff Greesh over on B107.3. They'll tip that one off in Happy Valley at noon. Britt Prince, she's running the show, and they're still unbeaten.
Pretty impressive the way she has stepped into the primary scoring role for this offense. I think Amy Williams empowered her to be the primary driving engine of this offense, and she has been more than equal to the task. You talk about being on the cusp of the top 25, and we just saw a bracket announced last week, the volleyball bracket. Well, the NET rankings that they use in the women's basketball bracket, Nebraska's 11th right now, which would put them at, what, a 3 seed? I mean, that positions you pretty well. And this is in non-conference.
Yeah.
Wait until they get into conference, and maybe they drop a game or two here and there, but they've done a lot of good work. They've chopped a lot of wood in positioning themselves for a deep run into the NCAA tournament. Penn State, they're 6-1, but their net's pretty weak. They're at 65. So some questions about who they played.
Yeah, Nebraska's dominated on the scoreboard. They've scored a lot of points. They're doing well defensively, and they beat a very good defense in Virginia and smoked Creighton too. So good stuff from them. Of course, the men in action tomorrow against Creighton. That one's a big one. The Blue Jays are probably coming in as the underdog for the first time in a while. And then by tomorrow, Nate, we may know Nebraska's bowl destination probably looks like Vegas against Utah. So we'll see how that goes. All right. For Kent Pavelka, for Kenny Larrabee getting us up on the StreamYard, for Nate Rohr, I'm Cole Stukenholtz. We'll be back next week with another edition of the KLIN Husker Hour. Go Big Red.